Hey everybody, Bob Chick back with another edition of the Voice of Bodybuilding, joined once again by my co-host, the one, the only, the Hall of Famer, Sugar Shawn Ray. What's up, buddy?
Giving a shout out and pay respects to the veterans who sacrifice and
Yeah.
put their lives on our line for our ability to have this conversation today.
And I know it's probably not necessary, but sometimes it is because the amount of responses I see on social media still cannot figure out what the difference between Memorial Day is and Veterans Day.
Yeah,
Why, I don't know. Memorial Days are for those who have fallen in the
that's
line of
correct.
service and protecting the country and such. Veterans Day is for those who have served in the past.
Correct.
So,
And are still with us, some of them. But nonetheless, I did have my father and my brother who just passed earlier this month. Bobby, they were both in the military. Know a little bit about it, but it's before my time. But I have a lot of friends, especially in Hawaii, where I'm headed to, Bob, this week, actually tomorrow, where most of the competitors are military athletes.
yeah, you got a whole bunch of military in the island of Hawaii, and you've been heading the show for what, over 10 years now, right? Just 10 years or
Yeah,
11?
actually would be technically 8. We canceled 2020 due to COVID. I still
Right,
work
right.
there. We're still there planting seeds, and they have sprouted. Bob, I am at record numbers, 324 with crossovers in Hawaii. My
Wow.
last year we had 298. So this is, again, when I say the biggest, we are the biggest. The Hawaiians come out and represent. We got 18 pros in the bikini and the pro physique, both Olympia qualifiers. So I'm real happy not only with the athletes showing up, but the sponsors that continue to support it, namely Mutant, and all the other gyms on the island of Hawaii that support what we do every year. And it's mostly for the military guys, by the way, because they're all over there killing time.
Yeah, well, speaking of sponsors, we are decked out in our mutant gear here today. I just cut a promo earlier. I don't have it with me because I took my pre-workout for my workout today, um, and did an actual review. And I want to tell everybody because I know they all see these snippets and things, but these are real. And I got to give it to Jim McMahon who puts it to us and says, "Look, cut a promo and put it out and tell me what you really think. Don't cut
Yeah.
it. Don't make it fake. Just put it out there and put it real." And this was going to be an interesting one because it was a peach flavored, and peach, as you know, is a very tough flavor to get right. I gotta
Right.
say, man, it tastes like peach. I mean, it wasn't anything
Yeah.
more or less, and it was dead on the money.
Well, for a lot of people, taste counts, right? I'm more of an ingredient guy. As long as they have the things I'm looking for. I remember when I first started with supplements, I was 17, 18 years old. You had to plug your nose for some of
Tough.
those
God, that
proteins
stuff was
to get in.
horrible,
Yeah.
bro.
The one thing that Mutant has done is they've commanded that taste spectrum while keeping the ingredients that you need, and it does what it says on the container. So that's kind of where Jim separates himself from a lot of the other CEOs.
Yeah.
He puts a high premium on making sure that it's palatable, but also delivers the punch when you need it.
Well, listen, Jim is a man who does what he says he's going to do, except when it comes to the shoe game, because I beat him
Hey.
mercifully at the unmercifully, I should say, at the Olympia. Although he still thinks he won that one, but I got to claim victory on that one, man. But listen, you
Well,
don't want no part of me when it comes to shoes, Jimmy. But thank you because I did get some new ISO Surge
that's the one. That's
just the
it.
other day, and this one is vanilla. Actually, specifically, it's vanilla ice cream. So I'm going to try this later on. I'll do another review on that. And I told Jim, I said, look, I'm going to keep it real. If I don't like it, I'm going to say it. He goes, that's fine, man. That's cool.
No,
But so
you'll like it.
far,
Drop.
Mutant batting 1,000 when it comes to the taste in their supplements. The ingredients is a foregone conclusion. It's some of the best stuff around. Speaking of sponsors, Shawn, I'd be remiss if I didn't
Yes.
thank some of ours because, well, you will be in Hawaii, my friend. I will be with my Panada family in Apiro, Italy. I'll be heading out Saturday. So big heads up to my family out there in Panada, Rudy, Eduardo, the entire crew. Profit, Mutant, of course, we just mentioned. Celsius, always got a can nearby. Keeps me going. Egg Whites International, American Male Wellness, and Icon Meals. Once again, Shawn, I find myself eating a little bit better, a little bit cleaner, and a little bit more on time with
Yeah.
Icon Meals. I love these guys.
Well, you're lucky to have them because you need that. You need to be on
I
a
do.
restricted,
So,
healthy diet. So that
you
helps
know
you. But I was going
why?
to tell you,
Because
with,
inherently I'm lazy.
there you go. Well, I was going to tell you with the ISO surge, drop some peanut butter and drop a banana in that bad boy. Taste the
I like that.
bomb. The bomb. Yeah, man.
Well, speaking of in with the new and out with the old, or vice versa, however you wish, we got a new president coming in, much to your dismay, Shawn. The Trumpster is back for a second term, just when you thought he was gone.
Well, listen, I've been on this planet damn near 60 years, and I haven't gotten to a situation where the president came and knocked on my door and did anything specifically for me or taken
Right?
anything from me. I just try to be a good citizen and do what I got to do. You got winners and losers in all walks of life. And at the end of the day, the people have spoken, and it is what it is. I keep my head to my feet on the ground, and keep my head to the stars, and just try to keep on cultivating these relationships, because we actually probably, Bob, are going to be experiencing fewer summers in our future than we have in our past. Try to let that one sink in. Fewer summers are coming our way than the ones that we've already experienced. So I don't have the time to get caught up in
No,
political
listen.
stuff like that.
I heard it put the other day. I visited our good friend Rock Shabazz as I was there at Lee Haney's show last week. Get into that in a second because it's Lee's birthday today. Um, but he actually he phrased something that kind of stuck with me. It's a little unnerving. I'm right behind you, bro. I'll be 59 in 2 weeks. You've just passed that way, but
Yeah.
and he said something to the effect of, "We have 15 summers left."
Yeah, it's
And when you
nuts.
think about that, you go 15 summers, and you go, "Oh, wait a minute." They're years, right? So I mean, you've got a summer and a winter, 15. It's 30. That's at best,
At
right?
best, yeah, on the
So
average.
boy, that's a little sobering, bro, when you think about it, isn't it?
Well, I think that's why we are paying so much attention to not just giving our shout outs to our sponsors, but actually living and walking the walk. I mean, at the end of the day, we are in the health and fitness industry. And with age comes wisdom. The bodybuilders that think they've got a bunch of time ahead of them, some of them never made it that far. So, we're doing everything we can to stay above ground and make a difference. I did a podcast the other day, and I said something that was profound when I heard it back. What we're doing as ambassadors, as missionaries, is we're giving back what we took. As a bodybuilder, we take. It's me, 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 selfish, 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 nobody knows. Then, you grow up, you get married, you have kids, you're traveling. We're doing the missionary work of telling these kids about the pitfalls, and what to avoid and what can actually help them, because we're in the preservation of health and fitness, right? I mean, you working with Rudy Panada and the equipment company, working with Jim McMahon and the supplement industry, working with Jake Wood and the Olympia. This is all about longevity, right? I mean, health and fitness is supposed to be about longevity. So what we took for ourselves as bodybuilders, I can clearly see now we're at that age where we're trying to give back to the people coming up behind us. And I think for us, it gives us a reason, to get out of bed. It gives us a reason to continue watching our nutrition and eat those good, healthy meals that Icon gives you, and travel to all these far away places and deal with these people that when we were competing, we had no time for. We're smelling the roses a little bit more. I am not on the countdown, right? I am trying to give back everything I took. And while I'm giving it back, I'm gaining. You got a bunch of sponsors in retirement that you never had as a bodybuilder because you were busy
True.
bodybuilding. So there's different perspectives, and I think with age comes wisdom and gratitude. And you could also be very humble if you were going down that road of being injured and being sick. You have a different appreciation for longevity. So however much time is left, whatever we've accumulated knowledge wise, our goal is to try to share it with other people.
Well, I will say this, my friend. Yes, we are here to share the pearls of wisdom that we picked up along the way. And between the two of us, we got a whole lot of years in this business of bodybuilding. So, for that reason, folks, yes, you can get a hold of me or Shawn. Shawn's got his training with the pros going
Yes.
on, and I will be unleashing the much awaited Strongwell app coming very soon. It's a subscription based deal. So you guys can get right on there. All the information, of course, will be on each of our respective IGs and social media outlets. That said, I got to give credit where it's due, bro. One of our own, Mitchell Hooper, from the world's
Oh,
strongest man, a fellow mutant. He's on the team. Bro, this guy, it just continues to just redefine. He actually just beat Half Thor the other day.
which
And
is
everybody knows Half
ridiculous.
Thor, right? And Eddie and all these guys. Bro, Mitchell Hooper might be the most dominant guy that we have seen thus far.
Well, what's crazy is this is not what he trained to do. This is not, he didn't
No.
wake up as a teenager and say, I want to be the world's strongest man. I think he's maybe 5, 6 years into this business
Yeah.
and injury free and taking them out like dominoes. I mean, nothing short of amazing. And it takes a good eye. Like, again, got to give props where they're due to Jim McMahon to bring someone on that whose star is on the rise. Like, this guy is really the real deal. Like, I tell him that. I'm like, I can't. I have to squint my eyes when I watch him doing these lifts because I'm waiting for something to pop. But he just powers through it, man. It's crazy.
You
Beating
know, what's
Hafthor,
interesting is
no easy
we've been
feat.
around long enough. I mean, I've been watching the world's strongest men since the '70s when Ferrigno and Franco
Kazmaier.
Colombo, of all people, right, who held his own against guys that were 3 times his size, and Big Bill Kazmaier and some of the early greats. A guy named Jeff Capes from the UK, who actually just
Yeah.
passed away last month, was another one of those guys. But it has evolved into such that you can't just be big and strong anymore. You've got to have some breath in you. You have to have some longevity when it comes to some of the events that they're doing. Is all about wind. Like you
Yeah.
better have some wind about
It
you
is.
because just picking up a heavy dumbbell or an object, it's all about reps now with that stuff. And you can see Hooper, he's built a little differently than these guys, but he looks, I don't know, I'll use the expression, more like an athlete than a strongman.
Yeah. The look is deceiving because it's like when you watch professional football. When we came up, you had Mean Joe Green and Deacon Jones. These defensive linemen were massive. Now they look like basketball players. They're tall,
Yeah.
lean, slender, and quick. Quickness is the thing. This guy looks like he can get out and run a 100-yard dash. Whereas back when we came up, what was the big Russian, Alexei something
No,
from
Lexi,
Russia?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, they were big, had the big pot belly and all that. He's redefining what strongman are supposed to look like.
well, it's certainly fun to watch, and I look forward to watching him dominate. And Hafthor's still kicking in there. Hafthor's been around a
Yeah.
long time, man. He's still out there representing, and these guys they're just so huge when you see them. And everybody sees those pictures on the internet where they've got like the bodybuilder guy next to a regular dude, and then they've got the strongman guy next to the bodybuilder, and
Yeah.
it's like two different. Bro, these guys they're all 6'8", and
Yeah.
Brian Shaw is just gigantic.
Yeah, he just got inducted into the International Sports Hall of Fame with Bob Goldman and Phil Heath. Bob Goldman put it on, but
Yeah.
Phil Heath got his flowers, and I think it was also Jim Plunkett. This was during the Olympia weekend, so it's kind of cool to see these guys, their careers kind of come and go and get the recognition that they deserve. Brian Shaw
Well,
is a
I
beast.
wish I was able to get out there. Unfortunately, I was tethered to the stage the entire weekend, but I may get out to see Bob Goldman's anti-aging symposium
A4M.
that he's been doing for I don't know, probably 30 years now. But this guy pioneered this stuff way back in the day, so it is a good opportunity to maybe get out there and shake some hands and kiss some babies, meet some other
Yeah.
people. That said, you mentioned Phil Heath. Nobody more deserving of a lifetime achievement award than, of course, the gift himself, Phil Heath. But it made me kind of think. So I'm at Lee Haney's show last week, and big shout out to Shirley and Joshua and everybody else in Olympia. The whole family just gets together, puts on a great show year after year. Lee was celebrating his 10th year this year, also celebrating Shirley's birthday. So they're like, I don't know, 8 days apart. So Lee likes to joke that she's older than Lee is by 8 days, like, every year. They actually met in high school. They go back that
Yeah.
far. But Lee Haney's birthday today, so big shout out and a happy birthday to the greatest. And as I say the greatest, it makes me wonder, is Lee Haney the most dominant Mr. Olympia of all time? And or the only other guy I can think of it that's in that same comparable is Phil Heath.
Well, and also let's recognize Lou Ferrigno. His birthday was like the day or so of the Incredible Hulk.
Big Louie, yeah, I just
Um,
sent him a message. Big shout out. That was my inspiration to get into bodybuilding. Wasn't
yeah,
actually Arnold, it was Lou Ferrigno from the Pumping Iron Show. But big
he's a
shout out
big
to Big Louie.
Italian
But
guy. Big
no,
Italian.
no, of course. I mean, listen, but that was my guy. I mean,
And
we'll get
Samir
into that in
Banu
a
just had a
second.
birthday too. All these guys are in November. Samir Banu, and it's crazy because I think the Olympia used to be back in the month of November. That's when these guys were doing
Yeah.
it. When I was competing, it was always in September. But to your point, as good as Phil Heath was, I don't know that he was rivaled by the depth of field that Lee Haney was.
Well, this is the
I think,
question. Who's the most dominant? Now, again, we're being very specific with this because, of course, you can make a case for Ronnie Coleman being the greatest of all time or even an Arnold, something like that. But when we say most dominant, I mean, like certainly Arnold had a run that, is hard to beat, but he only competed against a handful of guys, to be fair, right? Ronnie actually lost a whole bunch of times before he started winning and kicking ass, right? Phil kind of came in. He was only in one or two before he found his stride and then decisively beat, 7 years in a row. But Lee Haney won 8 in a row once he found his stride. Only losing to what he won. Well, he lost one Olympia, I think, his first one against Benute.
against Banu, and he was third, right behind Muhammad Makawi, and
Macaulay, right?
he was barely 22 years old. what Lee Haney did will never be duplicated. Arnold, you're right. It was only a handful of guys. You're only as good as the guys you stand next to. And Arnold, it was Arnold, and then there were none. All of Lee Haney's victories were undisputed. We could have an argument for the 1980 Mr. Olympia. I've heard it a million times. I'm all in favor of Arnold winning that
Me
contest, but
too.
he wasn't at his best. Of course, Ronnie Coleman, he lost for many years before he actually won. And it's notorious that Ronnie had help. Lee Haney had a few training partners, Rope Man, Superman, a few guys
Rich
that he trained
Gasparri.
with, and Gaspari, yeah. But those were training partners. There's a difference.
Yeah.
And so he did it at a time where come one, come all. And of course, he was going up against Samir Banu, the reigning defending Mr. Olympia, who he
Yep.
beat in 1984 to take the title. Muhammad McCalley never beat him again. Samir never beat him again. And he did it 8 years in a row, and he retired at 31, 32 years old. That's a record that we're never going to see beaten again. I can go on record and say that. So while that was happening, they tried to find a few people to throw at him, the flexing Dutchman and Barry DeMay
Yep.
and big Gary Stridham from South Africa. And of course, Lee the Flea, a couple second place there in 1989 and 1990, not even comparable. And of course,
No.
Rich got three second runner-ups to him, but Lee was unrivaled and there was no controversial victory. Yeah, he wasn't at his best in 1990, but across the board, nobody was. So the playing field is level. Everyone's down, everyone's off. Lee wins because he's superior. And then he came back to shut the door on the incoming reigning Mr. Olympia in 92, Dorian Yates. But he did beat Dorian and silence that rumor at the young age of 31, 32 years old. And he walked away on top. That's some kind of a record. That's something. Phil Heath came back after he lost. Phil Heath has a couple of second place finishes.
Yep.
And then he didn't finish in the top two when he retired. I believe it was fourth place when he walked off the stage.
Third, I think, wasn't it?
Third. I mean, Ronnie Coleman, I think, was fourth and should have been sixth or something
Right.
like that when he retired. So Lee Haney doesn't have that in his resume. Lee Haney walked away healthy. He walked away on top. He beat the guy that everybody thought was the guy, and he had nothing else to prove by trying to go for number 9. Because in head-to-head competition, he beat the guy that ultimately became the guy. So he's in a class by himself.
Yeah, and I agree with you. This is a record that we're never going to see beaten. And with that said, I am very proud to announce, Shawn, we are putting the final touches on contract negotiations with the totally awesome Lee Haney. Lee will be coming aboard on Panada. Rudy Panada has been hard at work. He is going to be coming back out with a line that he started literally back in the 80s called the Fantastic line. It was kind of like his version of Nautilus. With today's modern technology, he's combined the two, and he's going to re-release a limited amount of these machines, and we're going to be bringing out Lee Haney, the greatest of all time, and who better for a retro line to represent but Lee Haney himself. So I'm so excited that Lee will be joining us, and this is kind of the final tour, as Lee was quick to point out. Look, I'm not a young man anymore. I'm all for getting out there. I love Rudy. I love Panada. I'd like to be a part of this, but make no mistake, this isn't going to be something that I'm going to be doing for the next 2, 3, 4 years. He very much wants to get out, promote this line. It's basically like I don't want to say retirement tour because Lee will still be around, but his travel days overseas are going to be very limited. But if you guys are out there and you see Lee Haney's name, then he's going to be at the Panada booth along with Ronnie Coleman and Phil Heath and all the other celebrities that we have. This is your chance, folks. Like, this is it. This is your chance to get an autograph, a picture with the champ, T-shirts. We're gonna have it all out there, man. But big welcome aboard to Lee Haney.
Yeah, and he'll be at the Arnold Classic in Ohio. I believe there's one going on in Brazil too, if I'm not mistaken. I think Rudy's trying to do one over. He's got the one in Rimini in the summertime.
Yeah,
So
Lee will be at all the majors this year. But like I said, he was quick to point out he's not going to make a habit of it. It's like the Beatles tour, right? This is it. Like one final run, you got your chance. But folks, if you're in the history in bodybuilding, like I said, this is it, man. I mean, you got a chance to see the greatest of all time, and hopefully we'll conclude that next year at the Olympia or whatever's probably the last show that we'll be doing with that. But wait till you see the Fantastic line. I mean, you talk about bringing old and to new. The old stuff was impressive. I actually saw a few of these machines. They do exist. They're out there. Most people wouldn't even know what they got. But the guy that owns the Madhouse Gym in Atlanta actually has like 5 pieces of the original Fantastic line from Rudy. Unbelievable, but I can't wait to contrast the new and the old.
Yeah, well, I mean, Lee's got a bunch of grandkids now. His kids that were introduced
And
to
more
the
coming.
world. Yeah,
So
I believe his first daughter, his firstborn, is named Olympia,
Olympia, yeah.
rightfully so. And I believe he didn't he introduce Josh when he was born at the Mr. Olympia, kind of like Sergio Oliva Jr.
Yeah,
back in the
yeah.
day.
Josh literally grew up in the in the industry, and he was a Josh pretty much runs the day-to-day operation. So that's a very family-oriented business that Lee has created. And Lee's got all kinds of. He's got property, he's got investments, he's got other businesses that they run. But he still likes his hand in the bodybuilding world. And again, they did a great show out there. I'm more than happy to come out there every year for Lee to
Well,
be a part of
what you
what they
don't
got going
know,
on.
what you don't know what's coming next year is the Legends. So he's going to gather up about 5 to 10 guys that are going to actually be there in support of the Lee Haney games, which you'll be rocking the mic. But yeah, Atlanta's going to get a taste of some of Lee's best, the guys that made him who he was. Right, he had to push him. So just think of the names, Gaspari and Labrada and Mike
Sure.
Christian, myself. We're all going to be out there supporting what Lee Haney did at next year's Lee Haney Games. It's in the works right now, but next year is going to be twice what this year's was.
And I can't think of a better venue or place for that. But somebody like Lee at the head of the table. But we need just one good show a year like that. Doesn't have to be at the Olympia. It doesn't have to be at the Arnold. But it can be something like the Lee Haney Games that you get to see a whole bunch of icons of the sport. Like I say, none of us are getting young, but those ahead of us, bro. These guys are in their 70s now.
Yeah.
So
Well, you remember Yarka tried to do that with the Masters Olympia back in Miami.
yeah,
And after a long conversation post Lee Haney Games this year, we got into some heavy discussion, and he's gonna bring Josh into the fold to kind of carry that torch to gather up the old crew and
yeah.
introduce us to the new crew on the East Coast because that doesn't happen very
No,
rarely.
I think what a great idea, long overdue, and certainly I'll help in any way that I can to bring some of those stars there or be a part of it. So speaking of stars, we do have a show to report on. Of course, that is the Romania
Yeah.
Muscle Fest that literally just got done the other day, and not exactly a who's who of competing. Shawn, you're going to recognize about two names, and that's
Yeah.
Raphael Branda who won and Keem Williams in second place. The other guys, with all due respect, from the other side of the pond, Amir Omaragic, Horse MD. I know you know that name. Young and up and comer guy, but still needs a little bit of work on his physique. And Christian Wolski in fifth place. That was your top five
Yeah.
at the Romania show. But hats off to Raphael Brando. I did see some side by side comparisons where you can see he's made a lot of progress in the last couple of years.
Well, yeah, and again, Akeem's been to a lot of shows, right? He picks the right one. He gets that Olympia qualification. I believe Akeem's best finish was a sixth place one time in the Mr.
Yeah,
Olympia, if I'm not mistaken. But Raphael is on a rocket ship ride right now. He's got a full year to fill out and potentially hit his potential come Mr. Olympia. However, being a professional bodybuilder, he may have other plans. There may be some other shows in the work, but it's a long way from Brazil to
yeah.
Romania and to stay on that diet after the Olympia and do what he did. So I imagine because he's a kind of a taller guy, so he'll probably take the whole year just to repeak and try to redo what he needs to do at the Mr. Olympia. Remember, he represents an entire country. I get it that Akeem is Haitian living in New York. Doesn't get the fanfare. Like the Haitians aren't knocking down the doors because they got
No.
a great guy that's an Olympia caliber bodybuilder. But Raphael goes home and he's like Hadi Chupin going back to Iran.
It's
Um,
it's amazing what a difference you see, Shawn. Again, we've talked about this, but overseas with Hadi Chupan going back, even as not the victor, he went back with a second place finish and had a hero's welcome. Big
yeah,
Ramy went back to Egypt. I mean, they're making Sphinx statues of him
yeah,
that will
you're
stand the
right.
test of time over there as a two-time Mr. Olympia. Brazil, the entire country goes crazy for their people.
Yeah,
But interestingly, you can win an Olympia here, like when Derek Lunsford won. I'm sure he came home and whoever was picking him up from the airport was there. And
yeah.
but America's just never been in that category of like the hero's welcome type of thing.
Yeah, I mean it's a different place here. They're going to be more fired up about the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight than they would anything else. It's really crazy.
Well, let me get back to the bodybuilding for just a second because I did find where I don't even know how to put this. I'm constantly just more amazed at the quote experts that are out there. I think you might have even been on one of these other podcast this week or so, but I saw some fanfare that somebody actually thought Keem Williams should have won. Like he got screwed, of course. This is politics and this and that. Now, again, I always got to give the caveat. I wasn't there. You weren't there. I've seen pictures. I've seen video, but I know physique's enough to know. And yes, everything is a little bit different when you're in person to a point. I saw this as a decisive 1-2. I didn't see on the scoring that Keem got any number ones, and clearly the score would prove that out. But Brandau beats him all day long. But what is anybody even talking about out there that they thought Keem should have won?
Well, feelings, and that's what's happening is that people become relatable to some of these athletes because they like their persona. And they're not paying attention to the physique at all. And it's not really even a contest at that point. Once you become biased because you're a fan or you're the friend. Listen, my mom thought I should have won every contest I went into. Even I was smart enough to know that I didn't. But she never thought I should have lose. But when you're a fan of the sport, it's hard to be objective. And that's where it really gets blurred because anybody can have a podcast. Anybody can have an opinion. And let them have it. I would rather lean towards the people that know what they're talking about than someone that's more
Well,
emotional. We
listen,
don't have any
clearly,
emotional
Shawn, but
investment in this.
the problem I have is this. Even if you're a general fan of the sport, okay, and I don't know if there's any specific ties there to Keem. If it's somebody in Keem's camp, of course I get it. If it was his brother, his mother, again, his training partner, I understand that. We all get that stuff. But when somebody is allegedly just a kind of a fan, like a regular type fan, what are you seeing? Is it possible that some people just can't see physiques? I mean, we know that there's been people in the past who know they couldn't pick a winner on their best day. And there's a reason that we have judges that have been around for some time and have a proven track record. But what is it that people are seeing there that they would think? Again, nothing against Keem. I love Keem. Great guy. He's always been a perfect gentleman, good competitor. But we're just purely talking about physiques here. It's 8-0. You could maybe make a case for the side chest because Keem is extremely thick from the side in particular. If you're going to give him a pose, I'd say the side chest, I could easily see him beating everybody because he can stand with anybody in the world in that one pose. But every other pose, he gets beat. I don't understand if you're a, quote, expert, what are you looking at?
It's happening more and more and more. And I guess, I don't know, I kept thinking, do I need to get my vision checked? It's not
No.
me, it's them. It's people with a very strong emotional ties to their favorites that they're just not objectionable. It happens all the time.
See, I don't
I
think it's
can't even help it.
emotional. I don't think it's I just think they don't have an eye for it. Listen, some
Yeah.
people don't have an eye for art, right? Or music, right? Like they would go listen to something by Yoko Ono and go, wow, that was the best thing I ever heard. And you and I are listening to this going, it sounds like two cats going at it in the alley, which 99.9% of the people would agree with it, except there's always that 0.1. And I
Yeah.
get the idea, Shawn, that we've got a lot of 0.1s in the industry these days and calling themselves either experts or they have some channel or, again, anybody can have a podcast. It doesn't take too much, in terms of money or time or effort, okay? But the problem I got is that they just spread this stuff out where I think they do garner a percentage of people who actually go with it.
Yeah,
Right?
but I think you need those people. It's kind of like what we just went through with this political race, and also with COVID. You have to have your conspiracy theorists, you have to have your naysayers, you have to have your experts, you have to have those guys with that unbreakable spirit that they're right and we're wrong.
Right?
So I mean, it's the only thing is we hear more of it because the internet is so vast, right? And everybody can have their voice, and you need that to kind of have that checks and balance, right? Like I don't watch the conspiratorial news, although
Right.
every once in a while I break out the popcorn and a beer and it's entertaining. It's kind of dumbs down the reality. I want to hear these idiots talk like that and think to myself, is he that far off base? Or do they really believe, that this guy that finished in last place should have won the contest? Yeah, I mean, it's entertainment.
Well, it's like it's like the Mandela Effect, right? For those who don't know what that is, it's this idea that especially if you want to go with the government type style of the Mandela Effect, that they're telling you, no, you never saw that. That never existed. It was always like this. The most famous of that is believe it or not, is the Fruit of the Loom logo, which
Right.
they swear up and down there was never a cornucopia involved. It was just this pile of fruit. And it's like, wait a minute, I could have sworn I remember there was a cornucopia there. which is that big horn-looking thing that people see. If you ever seen a picture, or when you usually see it around like Thanksgiving time with a bunch of gourds and things coming out, and there's a bunch of fruit coming out of it. It's like, well, wait a minute, I remember this as a kid, right? And they swore up and down, no, you guys are mistaken. You never saw that. That was never the case, right? Except some lady came out with a piece of fabric that from back in the day, a T-shirt or an underwear or something, and it actually had the logo on there with the cornucopia. And it's like, what? I remember that. It's like, but they try to tell you like you're nuts. Yeah. And this is kind of the idea I get with this type of stuff is if they repeat it often enough, other people kind of jump. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he got screwed. Yeah, this guy should have won, right? And they got a guy in last place and first place, and this and that, and then other people start piling on. It's like, wait, hang on a second here. Do you have two eyes? All right. Listen, and before anybody jumps to it, oh, you guys are company men. You guys get paid by the IFBB. First of all, we don't get paid, once again, for the 1,000th time, for the IFBB. Never have and never will. Two, you and I have disagreed with the judging probably more than any other two people in the entire history that we've been involved in this. Most notably, like I say, neither one of us had Nick Walker winning in New York. We both had Martin Fitzwater winning, and I thought it was a decisive 1-2. So no, we don't always agree with the judges, and we voice our opinions. But we have two opinions that I'd like to think are qualified.
Well, because you got over 40 years of experience, and you're not just sitting at home, not going to shows and reporting on shows. Anybody can do that. We come up in the magazine era where we relied on the stories being told to us by the writers that were there and the photos from the photographers that were sent on assignment. Then as a fan, 2.5, 3 months later, we look at the magazine to make our own decision based on what's being fed to us. Now it's like you can find the best photograph of one athlete by themselves that their friend took the night before the show or the day after the show, and then try to make that some kind of stand up as if it were on stage and it's what the judges saw. Sometimes what you see in a guy's hotel room doesn't translate to what's on stage. And sometimes what you see on stage is not what we see on our iPhone or on our Mac or on our computer. So I take it all with a grain of salt. And at the end of the day, consider the source of where you get your information and news.
Well, one thing that can't be disputed is, although I do miss the magazine era because we both grew up with it, and I think it was a piece of Americana that unfortunately is now gone. And yeah, the magazines could manipulate. They could put out stuff to their favor. They could pretty much write whatever they wanted. And that was the Bible of bodybuilding, right? You had different magazines, of course, that all had their respective opinions, but those days are gone. So yeah, there is a little bit more in terms of you're going to get, stuff on time. You're going to get stuff in real time now. You can watch this stuff. A lot of these competitions have, pay-per-views and things that you can see in a minute's notice, or even if it's not live, I mean, you could literally see it minutes later. And let's face it, the quality is much better. This ain't the old, days of the beginnings of the internet where it was grainy and kind of shitty looking like a bank camera. Listen, you got good footage and good photography and very HK type of stuff. But that said, I mean, you now have to rely on an expert, right? Or somebody that kind of seems to know what they're talking about, to give some feedback and not just get shouted down.
When I hear some guy talk kind of out their ass, go look it up. Do your research. Go make your own opinion. You don't have to settle for the opinion of some guy that's trying to tell you the sky is blue and it's actually gray. Right. So listen to him and then go follow up, do your homework. Sometimes you got to dig a little bit deeper and go down a rabbit hole and you go, well, that guy's full of shit because you saw it for your own eyes, right? So I love proving people wrong, but I don't take people at their word if it doesn't jive with what I'm thinking. Like, wait a minute, he beat him? Well, show me. I need proof. I got to go look.
Yeah, well, listen, you know how that goes, but so we'll let that be what it'll be. Listen, there's always going to be somebody with a microphone and a what they consider their own opinion, whether it's expert or not. Like I said, you guys do your own homework out there. As always, Shawn, we are on the comments. We invite everybody's feedback. Hit the old like, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. But consider the source, everybody. Yes, it is us that's on there commenting, giving you guys as much shit as you're going to give us because we like to be in the mix. And Shawn, I got to give it to you, man. You've got the skin thicker than anything. You took a lot of heat on that Samson stuff from last week, and I think it's hilarious. But listen, that's your opinion, and people thought you were absolutely out of your mind. What do you mean retire? He just won the Olympia.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. For a guy that did it the way that I think all of us wish we could, Lee Haney, we're talking about the greatest.
Yep.
And to be the greatest, it takes a certain amount of discipline. For him to walk away at the top of his game at 31, I mean, the meatheads in the peanut gallery right now, don't walk away. You're only 31. You're 32. Why would you leave? Why would you leave? Because they want more. Their selfish desire wants to see more. But what they don't understand, what I've done and did for 13 years, is the sacrifice of your own life, of your own health, of your own relationships, of your own thought process to give to getting ready for an Olympia competition. And unless you've gone through that Olympia competition prep, you can't just, it's not like putting one pants on at a time. When we wake up, we just put our pants on and it's easy. Tell that to the guy that has one leg. Tell that to the guy that has bad knees. Tell that to the guy with the bad back. With walking away when you're healthy is very hard to do. But when I said there's nowhere for him to go but down, it's because he achieved what his childhood dream of once he started lifting weights, he achieved it. At some point, he's going to come to this reality, this crossroads that I'm talking about now, and it's going to be another hard crossroads to leave. It's hard to walk away from a $600,000 payday as a starving bodybuilder that used to borrow money from people and sleep on
Yep.
couches. And you know how it is trying to get a gym membership and trying to get that protein. Most bodybuilders come from humble beginnings, and then you get there and you're happy to be there. I'm comfortably in a retirement chair. So looking at it from where I'm at, knowing all the things that it takes, knowing what you have to give up, I don't know that it's worth 600,000. I mean, if Jake Wood said, Shawn, I'm going to give you $600,000 to get off the couch and come back and participate in the 61st Olympia, we
Right.
want you back. You know, for me, I would strongly have to consider: is it worth $600,000? Is money everything, or is the quality of my life? What do I have to give up for that $600,000? I don't know that I could do it. He's in full stride, so he's the one that has to wrestle with this idea. It was up to me in the cheap seats, in the commentary booth, to give my opinion on the alternatives. He has choices, and it's nice to have choices. For me, where I'm at, that would be a choice that's very high on my list, because I don't think it doesn't have to be about money, because he can take that title and turn it into money. Much the same way that Lee Haney has done, who's comfortably raising his grandchildren, which I don't think Samson has. Maybe he's not even thinking about. But there comes a time, and he's 7 years past Lee Haney's prime when he retired. There comes a time where he's going to have to face that music. And do you want it when you get second or third, or do you want it when you're still the champion and the reigning champion? It just sounds better when you're the reigning champion with that title than to try to make up for it 3 years down the road and you wind up like a Brandon Curry who won, 2019? Still
Yep.
there, but he's going in the wrong direction. Probably doesn't feel as good. He definitely isn't as young as he was. I believe he's 40. He's at a crossroads, but he spent the last 5, 6 years trying to chase what he lost. Hadi Chupin's still chasing what he lost. Derek Lunsford chasing what he lost. They're on that treadmill, and they're going to come to that crossroad where it's either family, health, time, quality of life. That crossroads comes to all of us at different times. I'm at a place where I can see it, so I'm able to verbalize it and at least plant the seed in his head that he has options.
Well, we're going to see where that all goes, because the Arnold is around the corner. We are already in November. You got December, January, and February. That's it. So you got 3 months. Samson still contends he will be on that Arnold stage, so we'll bear out whether he took the right path or if he made and has received the wrong advices. For that said, for Sugar Shawn Ray, I'm Bob Chick. That's another edition of the VOB. Hit us in that comment section, everybody, and we'll be back after Hawaii.